The last 9 points for the Mavericks.
Singing is not a normal circumstance. It's super normal, superhuman activity.
How do you know when you've practiced enough? When I wrote It's Never Enough.
I'll do it at 11 at night. If it has to be done, I will do it.
Practice and preparation is the perfect antidote to performance anxiety. I have literally gotten up in the middle of the night to practice something.
For a rehearsal, you need to be 100% prepared. For a performance, you need to be 150% prepared. For an audition, you need to be 200% prepared. And for a competition, 300% prepared.
If you don't live, eat, breathe, sleep what we do, you're not going to have a career, in my opinion.
There's a recent book called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, The Stories of Success. The principle is that if you want to be good at something, you've got to invest a total of 10,000 hours. It was a German conservatory, and they found out that for the most part, they all began playing around the same time. By the time they had reached their 20s, the ones in the top class were practicing about 30 hours a week. The ones in the lower class, significantly less so. And so the ones in the top class had practiced from the beginning of time they started studying to that moment 10,000 hours. What is that? We realize that that winds up being about 3 hours a day, every single day, for about 10 years.
Manuel Garcia was a member of a very famous family of singers who was the preeminent voice teacher of the 19th century. He cautioned singers that 15 to 20 minutes is the maximum that anybody should really sing at one time.
In terms of the mechanism itself, 3 20-minute sessions a day instead of 1 solid hour.
I'll have 10 or 20 minutes between lessons or between classes, and I'll get myself in a practice room, and that's when I do kind of short, segmented work sessions.
Most days I try to fit in a few shorter segments. I think that it's important to try to break up that time.
I would also add that you can do other things to benefit your performance, studying your texts, learning the languages, studying translations, looking at music, and so forth.
As I take a note card and I'm writing my poetry out, I write it as the poem reads, kind of separate it from the way it's set with the music, and learn it as a poem. I find that then when I put the music on top of it, on top of the poetry, I've made some connections already in my brain that help kind of make the learning of the music process a little bit faster.
Sit there and look at the text a lot and think through it and think about what it means and try to hear it in a new way in my mind. I write down the text a lot. That's my favorite way to memorize something, whether it's in English, German, Czech, whatever, I write it down. That helps me, just that act of actually writing it.
Any performer who tries to sing a note, a syllable, without knowing what they're saying, does classical music an incredible damage. People will ultimately, in this age of having access to lots of beautiful voices, they will not pay to hear the sound of your voice. They will pay for the ideas and the drama that your voice is able to communicate. And that's why they still go to live theater and don't just listen to recordings.
Then I'll break it down to the same kind of breakdown techniques that I give my students. Perhaps I'll practice the text on the rhythm, perhaps I'll practice the melody to acquire the intervals without necessarily holding myself to the tempo or the rhythm, and then put these elements together bit by bit in layers of difficulty.
I've got to force myself to have the discipline to start at different places every time. I don't just start at the beginning of the recital or the beginning of the opera.
You have to love rehearsing. You have to love trying things a different way. And I find that young singers have the problem when they do repetition for its own sake. You have to have a particular goal in mind. I'm doing this scale and working on clarity. I'm doing this scale and working on tone. I'm doing this scale and working on projecting a certain emotion in the music.
Do you answer your cell phone? Or is that out?
I want to say no, but I have. Yes. Should I? No. Yeah.
Right.
Oh gosh, I cannot have my cell phone around me.
Completely turn it off. In fact, I wish they would turn off the iPhones for most of the day. It's just something that has to be so totally embedded in who you are as a person that you don't have time to sit in front of the computer screen on Facebook hours a day.
It can be challenging to get a young singer especially interested enough in the act of practicing, you know, of making tone, of simply sustaining a vowel sound, you know, for 8 or 10 or 12 seconds, and find something so interesting and engaging enough that they can commit their mental and artistic selves to simply sustaining a tone with intention.
I always want to be improving as a singer and getting better technically. But also I feel that when I get to the performance, I want to be enjoying that experience of it and with the artistry and the drama.
When I'm learning a really beautiful piece of music, then I feel a responsibility to do it as well as I can. And also when I hear a colleague just totally rip through an aria and it's gorgeous, that's totally inspirational to me, and that's motivation.
It's a discipline, what we do, and it's not always fun, it's not always pretty, but it's something that we have to do so that when we get out on stage we can have fun and we can feel good about what we're doing and you know, serve the music. It's not about me, you know.
The real discipline of practice is doing it when you don't want to or when it's not yielding anything, realizing that if you continue to work at it, it will yield something.
Beginning of my sophomore year, I just buckled down and I said, you know what, I'm gonna try this thing where I actually practice. Every day, I'm gonna try it, I'm gonna see if it actually works. And you know what, it does. Practicing is not the chore that I was making it out to be. Practice is essential to success.
Well, students will sometimes ask me, you know, do I get nervous before a performance? And my answer is always the same. If I'm prepared, no. Because I know that feeling of walking on the stage when I'm not as prepared as I want to be. And I don't like that feeling. If you haven't been practicing, now is a good time to start.